Alrighty, so it is halftime in the game between the Vancouver Whitecaps versus Toronto FC, and I know the game between Nashville versus RSL is going to be kicking off in about 15 minutes or so. I decided that I'm going to get the review done right now because, I want to get this done before I watch the national televised game between Austin FC versus LA Galaxy. And, the two games that I mentioned earlier, I'll basically watch the remaining of the second half of the TFC versus Vancouver game. I mean, I basically put it on pause on that one, and I basically also paused the game between Nashville versus RSL that's going to be starting in just a bit. I mean, that's the good thing about ESPN Plus. I mean, you can basically hit the pause button, or you can even go back using the slider to go back to the moment of the game, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, actually, I haven't paused the Nashville versus RSL game because that game hasn't started yet. So I'll basically use the slider to go back to the beginning of the game. But let us actually begin with the first one of the busy 11 games that happened on Saturday, and we start off with Charlotte versus Inter Miami, and Charlotte is back on the winning side, and that they started to build the reputation of Bank of America Stadium being an absolute fortress. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, when you look at the facade of Bank of America Stadium, there is a castle outside of it, and that it kind of only makes sense that they are starting to really make that place a fortress, as they have now got 3 straight home wins after their first ever home loss against the Galaxy. Now, early on, 15 minutes in, Schwiderski had a shot that was blocked off the line by Mota. A lot of possession for Charlotte as they control the start of this game. Ruiz hits one straight to Calenda before Lindsay hits one also straight to Calenda. And that, the finishing and the fireball is really the only reason why Charlotte hasn't got to the first. Because really for the first 30 minutes, Charlotte was in complete control of this game. Though Kalina did have to deny Gibbs from close range, as that was really Miami's first chance. Though on the other end, Mackenzie Gaines went through on goal, but really stumbled in the vital moment. And yeah, Mackenzie Gaines would definitely want that one back because he was clean on goal there. And if he didn't stumble, he would have had a good chance to open the scoreline for Charlotte. Vasilet then hits one straight to Kalina in the 39th minute. Miami, I thought they did start to get into this game after, they were pretty much sleepwalking in the first 25 minutes. I mean, it was not a good start from the away side in this one. Kalina then denied Campana from 8 yards out. Campana had a really quiet game in this one, which you got to give credit to the Charlotte defense, consider, he's a dangerous man for this Inter Miami team. But we had to halftime scoreless between both of these teams, and in the second half, Charlotte continued to be on the front foot again, but they just kind of lacked that final ball. Campana then fired one straight to Kalina before Schwiderski hits one straight to, actually I got this one wrong, it's not to Kalina, but actually to Calendar here, the backup Inter Miami goalkeeper. Apparently, I think they mentioned that mentioned that Morrisman was injured in this game, so that's why Drake Calenda gets his second start in MLS this season. But then in the 68th minute, we finally got ourselves the opening goal and what turns out to be the winning goal. And it's a dream debut for Andre Shinishiki coming from Colorado after kind of that deadline day signing that Charlotte had on the primary transfer deadline day. But he scored here from Reyna and Bronico to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And really, as the time winds down, Miami started to kind of throw man forward. But, I thought Charlotte was relatively comfortable in terms of shutting down any real chances. I mean, Miami did try to put more man forward, knowing the fact that they're now down 1-0. But, they just didn't have enough going forward on the attack to really trouble Kalina down the stretch. In fact, Reyna, I mean, he almost stole Yetlin's soul. I mean, he basically put an ankle breaker on DeAndre Yedlin. And if he puts that one into the back of the net, then yeah, my sincere condolence to DeAndre Yedlin, because that is definitely not a great way to concede a goal, and especially you just basically got your ankles broken by Reyna, who just made an incredible move to absolutely done Yedlin there. But in the 90th minute, there was a shout for a penalty for Miami that was not given. But yeah, in the end, Charlotte are relatively comfortable, able to hold on to a 1-0 lead. And the shots in this one, 14 shots for the 12 that Miami has, 7 shots on goal for the 6 that Miami has, 3 shots off target for the 2 that Miami has. Both teams had 4 shots that is blocked, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession in favor of Charlotte FC. So, as I said, Charlotte back on the winning side. And for Miami, yeah, that good run that they had a couple of weeks ago, yeah, not only they have basically gone back to where they were in the beginning of the season, which is a team that have struggled, but yeah, it seems like they're on their way on another losing streak, which is kind of the story for Inter Miami, at least for last year, where last year there was one point they went on a 6-game winning streak and then they lost 6 in a row right after that. This team just cannot find consistency, which again just the story of this team in their first 3 years in MLS. But moving on, in terms of the next match, we got Montreal versus Orlando City, and this was a retribution game for Montreal. I mean, this was a game where, I'm pretty sure Montreal was tired of losing to Orlando, especially what happened in the first game of the season, and also what happened on Decision Day, that, they were going to have some revenge against Orlando City, and they were showing no mercy throughout this game, too. 6 minutes in, Kyoto missed just high on a free header before Galese denied Lapanainen in the 8th minute, and Montreal, you can definitely see they were hungry to get an opener. There was a shout for a penalty from the Montreal fans, but that was not given. Then in the 18th minute, Mahajevic trying to fought one in, but it hit straight to Galese. But then in the 21st minute, all that pressure that Montreal basically put finally paid off as Joel Waterman would score here to give Montreal 1-0 lead. Now originally this was supposed to be an offside call, but they did go to VAR to see whether or not it indeed is offside. And also originally, I think, since when I watched this game on ESPN Plus and they show the Orlando City TV feed, I think the commentator got confused in this, because there was one point where they said the check was complete when it was pretty clear that the check wasn't complete. And then I think the color commentator trying to explain why exactly the call was going to be overruled, and he says that I think it was Kyoto the one, it looked like he kind of touched it as this ball was kind of bent into the box, but in the end that was not the case. In fact, I forgot to give Mahajevic the assist in terms of that goal, and then therefore that's why Waterman was not in an offside position when the ball was delivered in. Though again, I don't think that was the correct kind of explanation. I think the correct explanation was really who won. You kind of stick a leg out of that one, and I mentioned before, anytime when you basically try to play the ball when you're a defender and you don't even need to touch it, but if you're attempting to play the ball, you basically neglect the offside, and that basically neglect the offside, and Waterman was able to put a tap into that one. And yeah, therefore Montreal takes the lead, and therefore that's why that call, of course, was overruled. It was almost 2-0 just 8 minutes later when Torres tried to score a second goal but hits it high from long range. Then Lapanainen, I thought he should have made it 2-0 here as he missed wide from 6 yards out. Yeah, I mean, lastly, Lapanainen, a guy that has really been struggling this season, and really been struggling for Montreal in terms of his finishing. This was a textbook example of that, as that's one that he definitely wants to have back, and he's glad he didn't had to think about that much of it with his team just getting absolutely destroying Orlando City throughout this one. Now in the 40th minute, Galese denied Mahajevic from close range, and Montreal, I thought they could be 2-0 up in this game if they were a little bit better with their finishing. They must have read that, because as we head to halftime with Montreal only leading 1-0, they would get that second goal just 6 minutes in, or 7 minutes in to be exact, as Mahajevic, certainly an early MVP candidate, he scored here from Johnston and Torres to give Montreal a 2-0 lead. It was almost 3-0 when Miller missed wide from a corner, and Montreal was in complete control in this game, and Orlando, they looked like they didn't want to be there. Like they looked second best in every single category. Schreiner then fired it wide from close range in the 59th minute. The shots were 13-1 in favor of Montreal up to that point. I mean, this was absolute domination by the hosts, and one of the rare game where we see a team just pretty much dominate throughout the entire one. But then, to everybody's surprise, and in a very MLS kind of way, Orlando got one back, and they score here in the 72nd minute as Matinho scored here from Pereira to make it 2-1 in favor of Orlando. That was only the second shot for Orlando City, and it turns out that would be the last shot that they would have, and the only shots on goal they would have in this game. But that goal definitely did give Orlando City maybe some hope that they can come back, because we know Montreal, they do have a history when they do give up a goal, and when things start to go against them, as throughout this game they pretty much dominate, and now all of a sudden it's only a 1-goal game, it seems like they're going to collapse. But what we also have seen lately from Montreal is that this team has shown much more resiliency under Wilfried Nancy, and in just nine minutes they restored that 2-goal lead It's Joaquin Torres scored from Brogiot and Waterman to make it 3-1 in favor of Montreal. Then Brogiot want to get on the score sheet too, as he did in the 84th minute from Torres to give Montreal a 4-1 lead. It was almost 5-1 when Kamara almost did that, but puts a shot wide from close range. Then he had another opportunity to make it 5-1, but he puts it high from close range. But in the end, just total domination by Montreal in this game. In fact, to just show you how much domination that they had in this game, 20 shots compared to just 2 that Orlando City has. 10 shots on goal compared to 1 that Orlando City has. 5 shots off target compared to just 1 that Orlando City has. No shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Montreal has. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that Orlando City has in this game. I mean, this is by far one of the most one-sided games we've seen this season. And like I said, Montreal, this is a team that is on a rise, and that, you know, they are definitely living up to what many people thought that they were a dark horse team coming into this season. And you could maybe even say that they're kind of like the Colorado Rapids from last season, where a team that, you know, you don't expect them to do well. Well, I mean, I would say that actually maybe that is not a great example, because I think there was some expectation that Montreal was able to do well with all the signings, and you know, early on it seems like they didn't make that expectation. Now they finally are. I mean, they're in a red hot form. In fact, they have now I think broken their franchise record in terms of the longest unbeaten run they had, with them now going 7-game unbeaten. But for Orlando City, yeah, they got a taste of a little bit of a medicine from being the away team of last game. Because remember how in the last game they dominate Charlotte, and they let Charlotte back in the game with a goal, but were able to escape with a 2-1 win. In this game, they were basically like Charlotte, which they just did not do anything whatsoever. I mean, they got lucky to get one back, but yeah, I mean, Montreal was not having it. They were looking to get all 3 points in this game, and they did exactly that after all. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Atlanta United versus the Chicago Fire. So you know how I said in the preview, this is a game between two teams that have struggled to score goals, and there's a high chance that this game will end 0-0. This is why we love MLS, because we've seen this before, where even when you see a game that looked like it's going to end scoreless, it turns out to be a high-scoring game. And while this was a high-scoring game in a way that wasn't as close as some high-scoring game is, it definitely was a game that features some goals, and it features some goals very early in this game, because just 2 minutes into this game, Ronaldo Cisneros would score from Araujo to give Atlanta a 1-0 lead. And that I thought for the first 10 minutes, Atlanta looked like they were the most south. I mean, they were absolutely dominating Chicago in the first 10 minutes of this game. But then in the 11th minute, against the run of play, Fire get an equalizer. It's Chinoso before scoring from Shaqiri and Navarro, and I think that's the first goal that the Chicago Fire has scored from open play in what seems like it's been forever. Because, you know, in the last game, yes, they did score a goal, but that was from the penalty spot. And you know, it's not a surprise that when they are a team that haven't scored from a long time from open play, that is kind of one of the reasons why they have been struggling to score a goal. But yeah, that was kind of a shock too, with the way that, again, it was against the run of play, and that kind of really halted Atlanta momentum a little bit, because after 04 basically blast one wide from into the stands, there was definitely some bad news if you're an Atlanta United fan, and maybe even U.S. men's national team fan, because Miles Robinson had to be stretchered off with a apparent knee injury, and Dijon had to replace him. And what's scary about this knee injury, it's non-contact. And whenever it's non-contact and he basically went down with a stretcher, yeah, that means I unfortunately might have to use the A word. And you know what the A word is in terms of injury. It's not a great feeling when a player, or even a fan of a team, to see a player that has the A injury. But it seems like that could be the case. But let's hope it's not going to be, because, again, you know, this would be a huge loss to Atlanta United with him being a cornerstone in that defense, but also a huge loss to the U.S. men's national team, because if Robinson is going to be out long term, he's not going to be available for the World Cup later this year, and that not only is a heartbreak for Miles Robinson, a chance that he finally has to be able to be on the World Cup team, but also the fact that now what are you going to do in terms of the center back position, and that the U.S. is going to have to find a replacement for him there. But as I mentioned, in the 17th minute, 0-4 blast one wide into the stands from long range. All the momentum was with Atlanta for the first 10 minutes. It was all gone, as I mentioned after when Chicago tied the goal. But then in the 23rd minute, it seems like Atlanta find their stride again because Slonina was able to deny Gutman from close range, and then Gutman blazed a shot over in the back post. And then in the 27th minute, Atlanta retake the lead. And it's that man again, Cisneros, scoring here to make it 2-1 in favor of Atlanta. And that's actually the first time that Ronaldo Cisneros has scored a brace in his career. I mean, it's quite amazing the fact that it's the first time to do so, considered during his time with Chivas. You know, he has been able to bang in some goals, but not one time he has able to score a brace. And then in the 32nd minute, Salina was able to deny Araujo, and that Atlanta, they looked like they were in complete control once again. Dijon hits it just wide from close range before Gutierrez with a rare fire chance that flashed from just one. And then in the 36th minute, Cisneros would complete the hat trick, because for the first time you score a brace in a game, you know you can of course complete a hat trick. Like, that's just so MLS and just kind of so special, the fact that you get your first brace and then you also get your first hat trick because of that. But here he scored from Amada to give Atlanta a 3-0 lead, and also I want to congratulate Ronaldo Cisneros of winning the Player of the Week. I mean, I know it's a little premature because we still have 3 games left, but anytime when you get a hat trick, it's usually an automatic guarantee, the fact that, yeah, he's going to win the Player of the Week. But yeah, that gives a 3-1 lead for Atlanta as they head into halftime with that. And in the second half, it seemed like the Fire did start well in the second half, and that Ofor had a chance to halve the deficit, but he hits the side netting. And also I accidentally wrote the same thing there too. But just 1 minute later, even on Fire one wide, or Fire one way high into the stands. No pun intended in terms of that. There was a shout for a handball for Atlanta that was not given before Mueller trying to win a penalty, but instead he gets a yellow card because of simulation. But there was no doubt the Fire was pushing to try to get one back, and Atlanta kind of took the foot off the gas in the second half. Mueller had a chance to make it 3-2, but he heads one straight to Shuttleworth. But then in the first minute of stoppage time, and really one of the first chance that Atlanta has had in the second half, Brooks Lennon would basically add the cherry off the top in this game to make it 4-1, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 16 shots could be the 14 that the Fire has, 7 shots on goal for the 2 that the Fire has, 5 shots off target for the 8 that the Fire has. Both teams had 4 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. So yeah, you know, for Atlanta, a much needed win for them. Consider how much they have struggled, and especially the offense finally showed up after in these last couple of games. They just simply cannot do it. And is it safe to say that maybe they finally found the guy that could be not really a replacement for Joseph Martinez, but a guy that can definitely take the load off of Joseph Martinez, or could be a good replacement when Martinez does go out with an injury like he is currently right now in Ronaldo Cisneros, because he has really turned up for this Atlanta team, at least in these last couple of games, already scoring 4 goals in the league after this hat trick. But for the Fire, they're now dead last in the Eastern Conference. And remember how in the beginning of the season when they were undefeated and they were a team that had a lot of these 0-0 draw, and Fire fans are kind of very frustrated about that? Well, they're now frustrated because now their team basically are giving up goals, and that defense that was so sturdy for the first couple of seasons, or not the first couple of seasons, I'm sorry, but the first couple of games into the season, yeah, it has really gone bad. And that's what happened. Like, when you put too much pressure on your defense, it's going to eventually crack, and we're definitely seeing a lot of crack in this Fire defense, and this is not a great news for them, because they already know that they struggle on the attack. Now they have problems in the defensive area too. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Red Bulls versus the Portland Timbers. So one of the strangest season in MLS history continued for the New York Red Bulls, where for whatever reason, this is a team that, you know, they can only win on the road, but when it comes to playing at home, they just cannot get a victory. And in some way, they kind of are fortunate the fact that they were able to get something out of that, because it looked like at some point of this game when they went 1-0 down, they were going to be be in for another game where the home woes continue for them this season. Though early on, Nealis did head one wide from close range in the 8th minute before Amaya flashed one wide from close range. The feet temporarily switched from the Red Bulls feet, which is the MSG feet, to the Timbers one, which is the Root Sports one, which was kind of weird to see. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen and that before, where in the middle of the game they basically change feeds, but they kind of change it right back to the MSG one. Moreno almost ended the Timbers goal drought, but he struck the post in the 25th minute, and that was really the first chance that the Portland Timbers has had. Though I thought neither team looked sharp in the final third. Bingham, of course, denied Barlow, but spills it and was not punished because of that. By the way, David Bingham making his first start for the Portland Timbers, and really making his first start in a long time. And you can clearly see that he's making his first start in a while, because he was very rusty in this game. And I think he's very fortunate the fact that he only conceded one goal in this one, because he was very shaky in terms of whenever the Red Bulls basically fire those balls. In which it kind of makes me wonder, why did not the Red Bulls kind of test him a little bit more? Like, you have a very shaky goalkeeper, why not take those long range shots? Because sometimes you can spills it and give up some juicy rebound, which we definitely saw in this game with David Bingham. Every time when the ball comes in and he had to make a save, he allowed some juicy rebounds that the Red Bulls weren't able to punish. But there was no doubt the Red Bulls was trying to push for a late equalizer. That wouldn't happen, as this game would be scoreless heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Rasmussen fired one just wide from close range, but then in the 53rd minute, the goal drought finally ended for the Portland Timbers. And safe to say, the goal drought also ended for Yaroslav Nishgoda, as he scored here for Moreno to give Portland a 1-0 lead. That's the first goal that the Timbers has, and I actually didn't write the amount of minutes, but it's 323 minutes since the Portland Timbers last scored a goal, and it finally ended here. Barlow then hits the side netting from close range, and the Red Bulls again continue to dominate possession and look to try to get the equalizer. And the Timbers were dropping in their usual low block, which is not great news for the Red Bulls, because that means the Timbers are a team that are comfortable playing that low to mid block, and a team that can definitely find ways to counterattack. Though there was a shout for a penalty for the Red Bulls not given in the 65th minute. Bingham then denied Morgan, but again, he spills it and was not punished because of that. But then on the ensuing corner, Aaron Long would score here in the 67th minute, and this was just not great defending for the Timbers. I mean, when that ball was delivered into dangerous area, they did not clear that one away properly, and Long basically pounced on that one. And just like that, the game was all tied up at 1 apiece, and the Red Bulls, sensing that they had the momentum, they continued to dominate and look for the winner, and that the Timbers looked like they were on the ropes of potentially losing another game. Bingham then denied Morgan, but again, he spills it because he was very rusty, and he was keep giving these juicy rebound, but once again, the Red Bulls weren't able to punish him. Lakinias then fired it high from long range in what was really the last action of this game, and in the end, the Red Bulls still searching for their first home win this season, as they yet to unable to find a way to win at home, despite, for whatever reason, this team has all the key to win on the road, as they draw one in this one. I feel like maybe from now on, the Red Bull should think that Red Bull Arena is basically an away game. And I know it's not easy to do it when you basically are playing at home and you treat it as an away game, but I guess maybe I guess maybe the Red Bulls can do what NYCFC is doing, which is maybe they should play at Citi Field or Yankee Stadium and see whether or not if they can win those games and treat it as a home game. Because like I said, this team, I just don't know why this team is able to win win on the road, but when it comes to home form, they have just been absolutely terrible throughout this season. As the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 7 that the Timbers had, 4 shots on goal for the 1 that the Timbers had, 6 shots off target for the 3 that the Timbers had. Both teams had 3 shots off block, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And, if you're the Timbers, I mean, I guess a draw on the road is usually good, but, against a Red Bulls team, they've really struggled this season at home, and especially with them getting that lead and finally ending that goal drought, and them trying to recover from this really slow start that they had this season. I'm pretty sure Timbers fans will feel like a draw is not enough in this one, but that's what they're going to have to settle in this one. And like I said, for the Red Bulls, they're still searching for their first home win, despite the fact that The only reason why they're near the top of the standing in the East is because of the incredible record-breaking away form that they had, and they have a chance to break that record. Though they're gonna have to break that record in a tough way, because they are going to be playing against the Philadelphia Union on the road. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games that happened in terms of the Saturday action. So moving on in terms of the next match, and from one New York team to now talk about the other New York team, NYCFC taking on Sporting KC. And despite NYCFC being literally the hottest attacking team in the last 3 games, they got shut out in this one against Sporting KC. Early on in this one, Johnson was able to deny Showery from close range before Ford tried to hit one in from close range, but he puts it wide. Sporting KC no doubt start off well in this game, but then in the 12th minute, the stream decided to die. And I thought that the stream was going to come back up, but the stream basically decided not to work, and then I tried to use some of the knockoff stream to watch this game. It didn't work too, because they had the Yes Network app for the broadcast of this game, and I know a lot of NYCFC fans have been very frustrated with the Yes Network app, and whenever the game, of course, is pushed to the Yes Network app, which is kind of weird, because I know the Yankees are not playing on Saturday because their game got postponed because of rain. So why in the world did NYCFC still end up on the Yes Network app when you can just push them into the Yes Network when the Yankees are not playing because of the game being postponed? But either way, it creates a lot of frustration, because I basically don't know what happened between minute 12 all the way to the 26th minute when the stream finally were back up. So let's just pretend that nothing happened in those 14 minutes. I was thankful there was not a goal in this, because I would literally say, well, there was a goal that was scored. I don't know how it was scored, but it was scored by one of these teams. So we resume in the 26th minute as the stream went back in. Amelia was able to deny Rodriguez from close range before Johnson robbed Showery as he pushed that one onto the post, and we had to have time scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, NYCFC continued to dominate possession and tried to look for the opener. Rodriguez put one wide from close range, and despite that, they couldn't really quite break through this SKC bunker. I mean, Sporting KC were clearly bunkering in this game, and they kind of did a relatively good job in this one. They had a rare chance too in the 75th minute as Russell trying to shoot one from long range, but it was deflected and it goes straight to Johnson. Parks then fired one wide from long range, so Keaton Parks trying to do the same thing he did last week against San Jose. No luck this time. Morales couldn't quite get a shot off after he pickpocketed dude in the Sporting KC box. Chenot then heads it wide for NYCFC. Maxime Chenot, of course, returning for the first time in a while in this game. Almost score a goal. Coming back from a long layoff. Pereira then hits it straight to Melia, and NYCFC was pushing the kitchen sink for a win, but Sporting KC, this season, we talk about their defense. I mean, we talk about the attack being a problem, but we also talk about the defense was also a problem throughout this season, where there's been times where they have not done well in the defensive end, but this was really one of the few times where it was a Peter Vermees masterclass, where his defense able to shut down a very high power NYCFC team, and in fact limit the amount of chances that they had in this one, because despite the fact that I did mention NYCFC had a lot of shots, they only had 3 shots on goal compared to 3 that Sporting KC had. 11 shots compared to the 5 that Sporting KC had. 2 shots off target compared to 5 that NYCFC had. No shots that was blocked compared to 3 that NYCFC had. And possession-wise, 74% possession compared to 26% possession that Sporting KC had. And I think maybe the reason why NYCFC kind of looked a little lackluster there in this game was the pitch. And let's just say that the pitch at Citi Field in this game, and because this game was also raining, it was not good whatsoever. Like, it was, at times, the ball kind of rolled very slow, and knowing the fact that NYCFC is a team that likes to be very quick on the attack when they dominate possession, they were having problem adjusting that. But still, I don't think SKC would complain, because, I know ideally they would want to get a win to get them kick off a decent run to get themselves out of this slow start they had in the beginning of the season. But to go to the defending defending MLS Cup champion plays, well, one of the defending MLS Cup champion play, because here comes all the jokes about how NYCFC is basically homeless and are playing in their 5th stadium so far this season, and soon to be playing in their 6th in the U.S. Open Cup. But yeah, it's definitely a great accomplishment, considering NYCFC has really just been a free scoring team in these last 3 games, and Sporting KC able to shut them out in this one. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be DC versus the Houston Dynamo. So DC is able to get themselves back on the winning side after they were able to win 2-0 against the Houston Dynamo, and apparently the Taxi Fuentes show was back on in this one. But early on, DC was on the front foot early. Bourbon had the first opportunity for DC, but he put one just wide from close range. Though Houston did have an opportunity in the 24th minute, and in some way, you would argue Quintero probably should have put this one away, as he had an empty net to shoot this one, and I think he was trying to play this one back because it was kind of a tight angle, but it was blocked off the line. Fuentes then had a curler that was tipped over by Clark from 30 yards out, but then in the 35th minute, he would be on target, as he scored here from Gresso to give DC a 1-0 lead. I feel like Clark probably should have done better here. I mean, Clark was completely caught flat-footed in this one, though. Again, this wasn't really a shot that was full of power from long range. In fact, I thought maybe the reason why Clark got caught flat-footed was it took a deflection. There was never a deflection. Like, Clark literally just completely missed that one, and that, yeah, I mean that is one that, for Steve Clark, he has had some good moment for the Houston Dynamo, but he also has had some bad moment and some kind of MLS Cup kind of moment for Houston Dynamo. And now Timbers fans are going to probably dislike this video because they don't want me to remind them of the horror that Clark had in MLS Cup. But just 8 minutes later, Fuentes would be on the score sheet again, as he scored here from Smith and Heinz Ike to give DC a 2-0 lead. There was a huge shout for a penalty not long after for Houston that was not given, as DC were heading into halftime with a 2-0 lead. Now in the second half, Fuentes trying to go for a hat-trick, but he hits one straight to Clark. I mean, Fuentes had a couple of opportunities to get the hat-trick in this one, because after DC, I thought, continued to be in control and chase for the third goal. Fuentes was denied of his hat-trick by Clark on the header, before Romo did deny Vera from close range. Romo actually had to come into this game from Hamid in the beginning of the second half. Fuentes then puts it wide from close range in the 66th minute, and there was no doubt that the Taxi is looking for a hat-trick fair. I mean, I just could not resist in terms of putting that one in, because anytime when there's always these puns, and I knew it too. Like, when I heard that DC was going to sign Tex Arcus because Fuentes, you knew that his nickname is going to be Taxi, and especially with the way that, the MLS headlines, I think they were saying when on his debut, your Taxi has arrived, because yeah, Taxi has definitely arrived for DC United, and it's basically on a way for them to get themselves back into winning ways, and certainly the next stop is definitely contending for the playoffs, as they of course win this one 2-0 and stay in touching distance from those playoff positions. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 7 that Houston had, 6 shots on goal for the 2 that Houston has, 3 shots off target for the 2 that the Dynamo has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that DC had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that DC had. And for the Dynamo, this was a very Dynamo road game where we know that they struggle on the road, and that it's not surprising this game that they basically did nothing in this one and just let DC get an easy 3 points in this one to improve their chances of making the playoffs. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is New England versus Columbus, and this turns out to be a very frustrating game for both teams, and mainly for the New England Revolution, because they thought that they had this game won in this one, with the way that they were able to come from behind after falling behind early in this one. And then you remember, this is the New England Revolution of 2022, and one of the big reasons why the New England Revolution is in the spot that they are in right now is that they have trouble in terms of finishing game and concede the most goal in the final 15 minutes of this season. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game came as Barry puts it high from close range. Then that was in on goal, but he was robbed by Turner in that sequence. But I thought this was not only the only two chances that we saw in the first 15 minutes, but I also thought it was a really slow start for the refs. I mean, they basically were stuck at 0 shot for the first 25 minutes, and little do we know that they would be stuck for 0 shot for almost the majority part of the first half. But then in the 27th minute, Columbus would get the opening goal. It's Barry scoring from Etienne and Santos to give Columbus a 1-0 lead. But we fast forward in the first minute of stoppage time as New England finally had their first shot of the game. But this was Rivera having the first shot of the game, and he puts it high from close range. Also, let me just fix that. My laptop for some reason just gave me one of those annoying update, which let's just hope my laptop doesn't just restart in the middle of me doing this review. I mean, you know how it sucks whenever the Microsoft tell you gotta have to update this video, and I'm like, no, I'm basically doing this video. Just wait, Microsoft. But anyway, so we head to halftime with Columbus leading 1-0. In the second half, Williams did put it wide from close range, and again, not much happening in the second half, as that was really the first chance that we had, or that was the only chance that we had in the first 20 minutes of the second half. Though in the 70th minute, New England finally got the equalizer, and it really was kind of the first big opportunity that they had in this game, as DeJuan Jones would score from Boateng and Heel to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And sensing the fact that New England has the momentum, they decide to press for a second goal. Heel almost took the lead for the Revs as he struck the post from long range. And in the 82nd minute, after I wrote, the momentum was with the Revs, but can they, of course, take advantage to get the lead? The answer is yes, because in the 82nd minute, Buxa would score from legit to give the Revs a 2-1 lead. And like I said, you think this game is over. You think that the Revs have been able to get a hard-fought free points and a hard-fought come from behind victory. But you then remember this is the New England Revolution, and this team just don't know how to finish game. And it's not to anyone's surprise that in the 89th minute they would give up that lead that they work hard to come back from. As in the 89th minute, Hurtado would score his first goal for Columbus, and I think it is his first goal because he hasn't been appearing for Columbus for a lot this season, or even ever since he went from Montreal to the Columbus Crew. But here he scored from Etienne and Zarian to tie the game up at 2 apiece. McNamara actually came close to make it 3-2 as he struck the post from long range. So a couple of post shot from New England in this game from long range, but in the end, it ends in a 2-2 draw for both of these teams. As the shots in this one, 9 shots for the 7 that Columbus had. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 4 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that the Columbus Crew has in this game. And yeah, overall, it's a very frustrating game for both of these teams. I mean, I guess for the Crew, you could say that, at least they show some fight in the end to get themselves a point, but for New England, yeah, I mean this is really one of the things that is holding them back of getting themselves back into where they're supposed to be, because you can clearly see this team is underachieved, and especially the defense and fans. I mean, I know a lot of Revs fans said, well, our defense is going to, is bad, but once Turner does come back, which he has now come back, it's gonna get better. It has not. I mean Turner has try his best to make some big save, but he can only do so much if the defense continue to be absolutely horrendous, which it was once again in this one, and especially in the latter part of this game. But now moving on, in terms of the last match on this board before I switch board for the third time, is Minnesota and FC Cincinnati. And I've said before, FC Cincinnati, this team under Pat Nolan, this is probably the best that they have look ever since they come into the league. And they also kind of make history in this game, in their franchise history, of finally getting their first 3-game winning streak in their franchise history. But I also said that this is the reason, this is why Minnesota should not underestimate FC Cincinnati, because I think everybody knows after this game that this Cincinnati team is not like the Cincinnati team from the first 3 years. They're not the butch jokes of MLS anymore. They're a team that you definitely need to take seriously. And apparently, the Loons did not listen to my advice and listen to my warning in this game, because, yeah, I mean, they deserve to lose. this game with the way that they play, especially in the second half. Now, in the first half, Reynoso did blast a free kick that goes wide, as I thought it was a lively start for the Loons at home. In the 10th minute, Boxall puts it wide from close range. I thought there was a lot of crosses for the Loons early in this one, but not one of them was really pinpoint. And Cincinnati was kind of sitting in a deep bunker with all 10 players in their own half. And, at least early on, I thought Minnesota kind of dominating Cincinnati, and that this doesn't seem like it's going to look good for Cincinnati with them just kind of bunker throughout the entire game, though I guess maybe that's a good strategy for Pat Nolan to use, because he knows that this Loons team is a team that is struggling to score goals and especially struggling to break down a bunker. Though in the 17th minute, the first shot came from Cincinnati, and it was actually a good one. Acosta basically fired a missile that Dane Sinclair was able to deny him there. In fact, they came close of getting the opening goal in the 20th minute when Vasquez struck the post as he went through on goal. The Loons defense was looking suspect on the counterattack, and this is not a big surprise because they did throw a lot of man forward, and every time when Cincinnati break, there was so much gap and so much space for this Cincinnati team to exploit. Danladi then fired one straight to Celentano before Celentano had to deny Hugwane in the near post. The pressure is good for Minnesota, but the final third was not so, and so is the finishing in this game. How many times I've said that with this team this season? In the 42nd minute, Dane Sinclair absolutely robbed Baji from close range, and I also wrote Dane Sinclair is the only reason that this is still 1-0. In fact, I think every Loons player should apologize to Dane Sinclair after this game, because he literally stood on his heads for a majority of this game, and that it's got to be such a gut-punching feeling for him to lose this game because of the fact that the offense wasn't doing anything, and also the defense also sucked for a majority of this game too. Now, in the second half, as we head to halftime scoreless, once again, Minnesota was on the front foot early, but they just looked really slow on the attack. I can't tell you how many times I hear Kindred Dean St. Albin mention on the Loons broadcast that this team was moving the ball way too slow. And it is. Every time they go on the attack, there was no urgency whatsoever shown by this Minnesota team. Reynoso fired one high from close range in the 55th minute before Danladi completely hits one in the back post. Reynoso then hits it straight to Celentano, and that I also kind of wrote this game looked like it was going to end 0-0, because at that point, Cincinnati did kind of back off a little bit, though little did we know that they kind of back off a little bit because they were using this as a strategy to try to make an all-out push in the last 15 minutes of this game, which I think that kind of surprised me a little bit, because knowing the fact that Cincinnati is playing their third game in 7 days, you wouldn't expect them to go for an all-out push with some tired legs in this one. But that's what happened, because in the 76th minute, Dane Sinclair was able to deny Powell from close range before Acosta just puts it high from long range. And then again, Cincinnati was trying to steal a win in this one. Dane Sinclair would deny Barrial from 17 yards out. And then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, after all the pressure that Cincinnati put on this Minnesota team, they finally got the breakthrough. And it's Vasquez scoring from Harris and Acosta to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. Though on the other end, Minnesota almost got themselves a goal back, as Celentano was able to actually not tip Acosta. I got it wrong here. In fact, I actually forgot who was the player that he tips that shot over, but it was one of the Minnesota players that he basically tipped the shot over. And yeah, in the end, Cincinnati, they well deserved to get a 1-0 row win in this one, and have got more wins this season than they had in the entire of last season with their 5th wins. But the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 14 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots on goal for the 5 that Minnesota has, 5 shots off target for the 4 that Minnesota has, 6 shots out of block for the 3 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And again, well-deserved victory for Cincinnati. This team is, I mentioned Pat Nolan has done a great job with this Cincinnati team, but I really think that he could now be in contention for coach of the year materials of how he has really turned this Cincinnati team from a team that has at time this season had those moments last year where they always find a way to lose, to now look like one of the better team in these last couple of games, and really becoming a relatively hot team, and a team that nobody want to face. And I know this season there was expectation that Cincinnati was going to be respectable, because you can't do worse than what they have done in the first 3 years. But even then, I don't think a lot of people expect them to be this good, and especially the fact that they're in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. Like, that is something I did not predict that they were going to do, to jump as high as they are in the playoffs. And this is not just them in the first couple of games. We're now 10 games into the season, and they're in 5th in the Eastern Conference. I mean, if they are able to make it to the playoffs, this would definitely be considered one, if not the biggest surprise of the season. But for Minnesota, speaking of playoffs, this team is not going to make the playoffs playing like this. Like, unless if this offense can get going, and especially, I mentioned the fact that, in this game, it was not a big surprise that when Reynoso didn't had it play well in this one. Well, actually, I think Reynoso did play well in some part of this game, but that was really it. Like, the rest of the attack really looked very stale throughout the game, and unless if they don't figure it out throughout the season, I don't think this team is going to make it to the playoffs. Like, and they're not really that much in terms of the buffer zone above the red line. I mean, they're still in 6th in the Western Conference, but they're only like a couple of points out from dropping below it. And I know Minnesota has had a decent run in this season, but it started to now look bad with the way that this team just simply cannot score. Like, if this team cannot figure out this goal scoring drought, this team is in serious trouble of not only underachieving again this season, but might miss out on the playoffs. And if this team does miss out on the playoffs, you wonder, is this going to be the year when Adrian Heath is going to get the axe? Because I know right now he's under a lot of heat, and especially that Heath out brigade that has been quietly been banging the drum. That drum has banged really loud after this resort against FC Cincinnati. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 3 games that happened in terms of the Saturday action. Alright, so moving on in the next match is FC Dallas versus Tacoma Defiance. And I know throughout the season, whenever the Sounders start their second team, I always make the jokes about how it's the Seattle Sounders and Tacoma Defiance. But really in this game, the Seattle Sounders did not show up. Instead, Brian Spritzer decided to play the Tacoma Defiance team, and rightfully so, because, after winning CCL against Pumas in that second leg of the historic game, you knew that all the starters were not playing in this game, and that, it seemed like, as I mentioned with the Sounders, unable to get this week off because of the fact that they're still kind of hungover for the games. I think Brian Schmitzer just kind of decided to start a Tacoma Defiance team in this one against FC Dallas, which, I also mentioned in the preview, if that, of course, is going to be the case, then congratulations, Dallas. You're the winner of this week's sweepstake in terms of the free points of the week. And they kind of took that sweepstake and won it, but it actually took a while for them to kind of redeem that sweepstake. But early in the first half, Hedges actually struck the post in the back post. Before, it was deja vu all over again in the 9th minute, as he also struck the post in the back post in the 9th minute of the game. And I thought Dallas was definitely inching close for the first goal, which wasn't surprising. But Leo Chu actually went through on goal here, and he puts that one wide. And that's one that, Leo Chu no doubt wants to have back, because he was in on goal here. And really, this was probably the best opportunity that Tacoma Defiance has in this one. But, no, they weren't able to capitalize, knowing the fact that they were a league below coming into this game against Dallas, and also heavy underdog. But Arriola then puts it wide from close range in the 30th minute before Velasco puts it wide from close range, as it remains 0-0 heading into halftime against Tacoma Defiance. So certainly the Sounders' second team was doing very well against a much stronger Dallas team on the road. Though in the second half, Dallas continued to press for the opener goal. Fiera hits it high from long range before Arriola fired one wide from long range. Dallas picked up where they left off in the first half, which is trying to look for the opening goal. Quignon then puts it wide on the header before Velasco hits one straight to Cleveland. But then in the 65th minute, the long-awaited opening goal for Dallas finally happened, and it's who else but Jesus Ferreira who scored here from Tomasi and Velasco to give FC Dallas a 1-0 lead. It could have been 2-0 if Velasco didn't post it wide in the 68th minute. It was all Dallas in this game, as Tacoma, they definitely looked like they were outmatched in this one. Like they trying to hold on to get a point out of this one for their main team, the Sounders, but it just feels like it wasn't meant to be the case. Sissoko then cleared a shot off the line in the 69th minute. Hara then hits it straight to Cleveland, but then in the 88th minute, Dallas made sure that this was all 3 points, as Ariola would make it 2-0 in favor of FC Dallas, and that would be the final score in this game against Tacoma Defiance. As the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to just 4 that Tacoma has, 6 shots on goal compared to none that Tacoma has, 3 shots off target compared to 10 that Dallas had, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Tacoma has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Tacoma Defiance has in this game. And like I said, they tried to give them their main team that was still in hungover mode after CCL a point, but it wasn't meant to be. And now the good news, at least for Tacoma Defiance, is that they are gonna now be representing the Seattle Sounders, and that the Sounders would return to MLS after this game with the way that, since all their starters got a much needed day off, they would be ready for the next league game, and maybe even for the next Open Cup game, which is bad news because, yeah, you know who the Sounders are playing in that Open Cup? Oh yeah, that's right. It's the team that I'm wearing the jersey right now. Which, speaking of which, talking about that team, we're gonna talk about that game next, which is the Quakes versus the Colorado Rapids. And it took 10 games, but finally the Quakes were able to get their first clean sheet of the season. Though, again, I just feel like this was another game where, the Quakes not only got a win at home, but they did it in a very controversial way. And that Rapids fan, I think they definitely have some rights to be very angry about the refereeing decision in this game, especially that handball that was not called in the latter part of the second half. But in the first half, Acosta did blast it high from close range before Nathan put post one wide in the 10th minute. Yarbrough then denied Maury from long range, or not Maury, but Marie from long range there. That's kind of embarrassing, the fact that I can't even pronounce my team's name. But yeah, he denied Marie from long range there. Before there was a couple of half chances for both teams, or actually, I wrote there was a couple of half chances for both teams, but there was no breakthrough. Though the Rapids really started to kind of put the foot on the gas after I wrote that, because Mark Sinkowski did deny Mark Anthony K from long range before Lewis hits one straight to Mark Sinkowski, and then Max Alvarez hits it just high from close in the 22nd minute. And Colorado was pressing for the lead, and I wasn't going to be very surprised that the Quakes eventually would concede that first goal. But to the Quakes' credit, they did ride out the storm that the Rapids were put on them. In fact, they almost got the 1-0 lead right on the stroke of halftime when K-Couch struck the post from long range, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, the Quakes definitely played much better, as Yarbrough first denied Ibovasi from close range in the 47th minute. Some good energy shown from the Quakes, I thought, early in the second half. That would continue in the 59th minute, when I thought Ibovasi should have scored the opening goal for the Quakes, as he went through on goal, went around Yarbrough there, but just could not put that one on target. Lopez then had a diving header that just missed one. I mean, if that would win, that would have been a spectacular goal by Marcos Lopez. But in the 64th minute, that goal finally came for the Quakes. And it's Nathan scoring here from Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. I mean, the Quakes right now have become one of the most dangerous teams on set pieces. Like, this season, they have scored a lot of set piece goals. Certainly more than I've seen from them in the past. And in some way, that's a good and bad thing, because, you want to be dangerous in terms of set pieces. But also, I kind of wish this team scored more open play goal, but at least, I think they're kind of taking a page out of the Colorado Rapids, because, the Rapids is basically the team that is the king of set pieces, at least for the past couple of seasons. Mark Sinkowski then denied Zardes from close range, as I thought the Rapids were trying to push to get one back. And then this is where we get to the controversial call, because after Yarbrough was able to deny Cal, Colorado was still appealing for a handball that Nathan has. And in fact, I know a lot of Rapids fans were angry the referee didn't go to VAR for this. Remember what I said, just because the referee doesn't go to the screen doesn't mean that the play is not under review by VAR. And it was pretty clear that that was the case because the referee had his hands in his ear, which he was definitely communicating, or actually not he, but she was communicating with this because it was actually a female head referee in this one. But yeah, she was definitely communicating with the VAR official. And yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a blown call by VAR because you can clearly see on the replay. Like, first of all, I was thinking, well, maybe there was a foul on the Rapids that maybe neglect that handball and maybe the Quakes got away with it. But no, there was no foul whatsoever. It was just, they were just looking at the handball, and you can clearly see Nathan, his hand was in an outstretched position, and that ball hits his hand. Like, that is just a stone wall penalty, and yet somehow in some way they didn't call it. And the Quakes actually decided to bring on some substitution, which I thought maybe that's just kind of a distraction to VAR, knowing that they're gonna throw some sub, trying to throw things off, and maybe that kind of worked out because they decided to stick with the original call. And again, I think that was the wrong call. And as a Quakes fan, I even say that too. So you can't really blame me for being biased for my team by saying that. I mean, it was pretty clear that that was a penalty. So yeah, Nathan, really, this is the second consecutive game that he plays for the Quakes that he got away with one here. Though hopefully he doesn't get suspended in the next game, because he got away with a red card in that last game against the Sounders, and he did get suspended. And in this one, I don't think he's going to get suspended just because of a blown handball call. But in the 78th minute, Yarbrough did deny Gregush from long range, and all of a sudden the Quakes, with the benefit of VAR in their hand, it seemed like they were looking to try to put this one away, or push for the second goal. Yarbrough then denied Nathan in close range. Yarbrough definitely was the reason why this was not as ugly as it is, because he makes some big save in this one. And the Quakes, of course, finish off this one. Well, they were able to do so even without the second goal, and that Mark Sinkowski did have to make one more save, denying Mesquita in the free kick shot from 24 yards out. But yeah, in the end, the Quakes, of course, were able to win 1-0 against the Rapids, and the shots in this one dead even at 13 shots apiece. 4 shots on goal for the 5 that the Rapids had, 5 shots off target for the 3 that the Rapids had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Colorado has in this game. And like I said, the Quakes, they really got away with one here, and this is also kind of the reason why I haven't really been that excited. I mean, I'm glad the Quakes are in a winning ways, but it feels kind of dirty and feels kind of tainted with the way that we've been getting bailed out by a refereeing decision, which is kind of also ironic too, because I feel like the Quakes has been one of those teams, at least for the past couple of seasons, that have always been screwed over by referee, and this season it's been the complete opposite. It's been the referee decision that's been in favor of the Quakes, which only tells me that karma is going to definitely come back to his team. But at least this team is getting themselves in a relatively good run ever since Almeida was no longer the head coach and was fired from this team. But like I said, even though I know it's very tempting when you look at the standings and they're 3 points out of the playoffs, I'm still going to take the pessimistic view and say that this team is not going to make the playoffs. I mean, I feel like the way that they're playing right now is mainly due to the new coach boost that we've always seen in the league, where whenever you bring in an intern, you're going to definitely have a boost in the performance. And we'll see if the Quakes can continue that it does make me believe that maybe they do have a shot of making the playoffs. But for now, I still think that they're going to miss it, though they are definitely playing hard. I'm not gonna lie, and this is another game. It's shown that this season, as much as they haven't done well on the road, at home they have done very well. I mean, they have now really started to make PayPal Park like a fortress, like what I seen a couple of years ago. Where I remember PayPal Park was one of the hardest places to get points, and it's been showing again this year with them only one opponent, which turns out to be the team that is currently on that record amount of away win. That is the New York Red Bulls, winning on the road as the only team to be able to get all 3 points against the Quakes at PayPal Park. But now moving on into the last game of the Saturday action is the main event between LAFC versus the Philadelphia Union, in a game that I mentioned it should have moved to national television, and it shouldn't be 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. And I also said that with this game being kind of MLS After Dark, I think this means that this game is going to be a little crazy. And in some way, it was. I mean, this game turns out to be a very entertaining game, which, again, this just makes me wonder, if only this game was on national television and at an earlier kickoff, the rating would be definitely good for this game. And I know TV rating in MLS have not been great whatsoever, but I think after this entertaining game, maybe you could say that the rating could be decent. Now, early on in the first half, Burke did fire one into the 3-2-5-2, but then Mihaila Opoku goes for a goal, but his deflected shot went wide. Blake then denied Opoku from close range, and then not long after, in fact the very next play, Vela curls one just wide from close range, and LAFC kind of got off to a fast start, which is not something you've seen from this team. I mean, this team has always get off to a slow start, but that's not the case. I mean, it looked like they were going to get the opening goal until it wasn't, because in the 9th minute, Gastak would score from Wagner and Carranza to give LAFC, or not LAFC, I'm sorry, the Philadelphia Union a 1-0 lead. They tried to double that lead in the 30th minute with Martinez trying to shoot from long range, but he drove that one high. And despite the fact that LAFC was dominating the possession, I thought Philly did a good job in terms of neutralizing this LAFC attack. Like, we talked about how good this defense is for the Philadelphia Union, and they were definitely shutting down a very high-powered LAFC attack. Though Ibiaga did hit one just wide in the 41st minute, and we had to halftime with the Union leading 1-0 on the road against LAFC. Though that lead would not last long heading into the second half, because LAFC, they were ramping up the pressure, and I feel like whatever Steve Cherundolo said to his team in the second half, it definitely worked, because this team, they were moving the ball much faster, and this has started to become what we saw from LAFC this season, which is really started to look like the team that won the Supporters Shield, where no matter how good your defense is, you're not going to stop this high-powering attack, because with them pressing for the equalizer, they would get it straight away in the 55th minute, as Mihaila Opoku would score from Cifuentes and Arango to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Not only momentum was with LAFC, but you knew it's inevitable that LAFC is going to get the second goal. Like, we know this is a second half team, and that this team is going to be able to overcome deficit, even if they had to face that in previous game. Cifuentes almost got that second goal for LAFC, but he puts it high. But then in the 64th minute, really kind of unexpectedly, Philly took the lead again. It's Carranza scoring from Gastak to give the Union the lead again. So Daniel Gastak, great game for him. 1 goal, 1 assist. And for Carranza, the same thing. 1 goal, 1 assist in this one. Santos almost made it 3-1, but he fired it wide from long range. And again, this one really not gone according to script. Like, according to script, LAFC should be winning this game, not losing in this one. Though they then once again gone back to pressing for the equalizer. Hario Escobar almost scored on the header, but Hario had to clear this one away. But eventually, LAFC would get that equalizer, and Escobar would eventually get his goal, as he scored here in the 82nd minute to once again tie the game up at 2 apiece. And while his teammate was celebrating, you can see Franco Escobar, he grabbed the ball and immediately run back to tell his teammate that they can win this game. And I don't blame him, because you know that the momentum is now with LAFC, and that Philly looked like they were just hanging on for dear life. And in the 90th minute, Mamadou Fall almost scored what could have been a goal of the week contention, as he decided to do a Diego Chara. Here goes on, well, not a Diego Chara, I'm sorry, but Jimmy Chara. Got the wrong Chara brother there for a second. He goes on his bike there, and he actually connected very well, but it is clear off the line by Glesnes. There was then some pushing and shoving at the end of this game, because, you know, this, for many people have said that this is the rematch, or this could be a potential preview of MLS Cup this year, which, you know, I don't think this is going to be the matchup in MLS Cup. I mean, it's tempted to say that is the case, but if both of these teams is going to finish first in their respective conference, it is highly unlikely that we're going to see an MLS Cup between both of these teams, because I don't remember the last time we've seen an MLS Cup matchup between two number one seed from each of the conference. So yeah, you know, this is highly unlikely it's going to be the preview of an MLS Cup, but if it is, then we're definitely in for an exciting game, because in the end, despite the fact it ends in a 2-2 draw, it was definitely a very entertaining game. And the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 9 that the Union had, 6 shots on goal for the 2 that the Union has, 8 shots off target for the 6 that the Union has, 8 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 67% possession compared to the 33% possession that the Union has in this game. And I also would like to say that this game was very similar to the free resort that we saw the last time both of these teams play at Bank of California Stadium, because it feels like every time when Philly takes the lead, LAFC always has an answer, and that in this game, both teams going to have to split the point of a very entertaining game, and it's kind of also the reason why both of these teams are at the top of their respective conference. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 11 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 11 of these games? Remember, we still got 3 games that's going to be coming up on Sunday, which, you know, after when I finish this video, I am going to definitely watch those games. But if you enjoyed this video, if you do, make sure you guys like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.